Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all today to the Australasian College of Road Safety Women in Road Safety Network webinar in celebration of the International Women's Day 2025. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting today online. And as I'm joining from Canberra, I'd like to acknowledge the Ngunnawal people who have cared for this land for thousands of generations. We pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and we extend to the respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples joining us today. On this special occasion, as part of the International Women's Day 2025, we reflect on this year's theme, Accelerate Action. And if there is one group of people who embody this theme every single day, it's the incredible women in road safety. From the engineers designing safer roads, to the researchers gathering critical data, to the policymakers championing the change, and the advocates fighting for vulnerable road users, and to every woman who has committed herself to this vital work, we celebrate everyone and each of you today. Your efforts save lives, and your work is creating the future where mobility is safe and accessible for all. And your leadership is paving the way for more women to step into this space, contributing their expertise and driving meaningful change. A few housekeeping points is that we're going to have a conversation with our guest speaker in a couple of minutes, and I'll advise you to share your questions via chat and engage in the conversations. I also would like to acknowledge the fact that some of our colleagues in Queensland and Northern New South Wales, for known reasons, may not necessarily be able to join this webinar today. Our thoughts are today and hope they are well, but this webinar is being recorded and it will be available to view at the ACRS website within a week or so. So you'll be able to join to join the webinar and watch it online. This webinar is a space for conversation, learning, and inspiration. And we will hear today from our trailblazing woman in road safety who will share her experiences, challenges, and insights. Her stories will not only inspire, but also equip us with knowledge and motivation to drive change forward faster. So our guest speaker today is not only the 2024 ACRS Women in Road Safety Award winner for her contributions in road safety research and advocacy, she is also a global leader in road safety research, dedicated to protecting vulnerable road users. As an associate professor at the Monash University Accident Research Centre, or MUARC, she leads groundbreaking studies on older drivers, children, and individuals with medical condition. A 2021 review recognized her the world's top author on these critical topics, reflecting the impact of her work. And she is also engaging in global road safety policies through her leadership in various organizations, ACRS, Safe Kids Worldwide, AAAM, and so on and so forth. So her work is not just about data, it's about saving lives. So welcome, Associate Professor Sjaan Koppel, and looking forward to today's inspirational conversations and discussions today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And yes, lots of congratulations from the recent recognition. And even just before we receive some more questions, what did the award in Women Road Safety actually meant to you?
Oh, it meant a lot. I actually cried when Ingrid called me and told me that I'd won because I didn't realize that I'd been nominated. So it meant the world to me because I've been working in road safety for over 20 years and I'm really passionate about empowering the next generation of women. So to be awarded for that passion, as I said, I cried and I'm very thankful.
Great. It is indeed an incredible moment, and it's a fantastic recognition for all your hard work. But I'd like like to talk about the journey, your journey in road safety. And can you share with all of us what inspired you to work in road safety? And was there a defining moment that led you to this career?
I'd like to say there was, but it wasn't. I think like most people working in road safety, we sort of find ourselves in this space and then we love it so much that we stay there. So I did an undergraduate degree at Swinburne University in psychology, psychophysiology, and then I did my PhD in that, looking at sort of cognitive development in children. And one of my lecturers called me and said, "Do you know anyone who wants an RA job?" And I was finishing my PhD, and I said, "I would." Um, so I came and had an informal interview with Jude Charlton and Brian Fildes. And I came in, and Brian had just come in, and he said, "I'm really sorry, I'm jet lagged. I've just come from a conference in Brazil." Now, I knew nothing about academia. I had no idea, but it was so amazing to me that you could do research and then go globally and share that research. So I started as an RA in 2002, and then I've been at MUARC ever since. So I've worked my way from level A to level D. I've worked on lots of different projects. That's what you do at MUARC in terms of a self-funded centre. You know, when I started as an RA, I was doing lots of literature reviews and ethics. As I said before, I fell in love with road safety. I love the community, but also the research is really meaningful, and you can have real world impact. So I really like the academia, but then also the implementation side of it too.
Oh, that's really inspiring, and it's great to hear those stories, you know, in the past ways, how women in road safety actually found that path, so where they are today, and that's to the extent, I think it's a great thing, but also it inspires and provided role models for young girls and women to pursue their career in road safety. Um, Road safety sometimes is seen as a male-dominated field. Was it the same for you, or did you come across any challenges for women in the industries in your career? And if yes, how you navigated that?
Yeah, so I think not only am I a woman, I'm a behavioral scientist. So I've come up against the fact that people have told me that behavioral science is not a real science. I once had a very senior person, not at MUARC, told me that I was too beautiful to do road safety or to know how to do science. But that was 20 years ago. So I think things have really changed. And I think that we are now, just like we're embracing the safe system and understanding that you can't look at things in isolation, you need the whole system to be working. We're really seeing that transdisciplinary research is really important. So we need different disciplines working together, but we also need to be working with our stakeholders all the way through to make sure that the research is meaningful in terms of real world. So yes, I've definitely come up against a few challenges, but I think especially when you've got other women and other men who have your back, that's where you can sort of shut down that kind of conversation or shut down those sorts of comments. And it's about us making sure that we do the same for the next generation coming through.
Yeah, that's all valid points. And sometimes we have those also role models or mentors, you know, who help to navigate through whether it's conscious or subconscious without even realizing that. So I think there are some people who really also support and inspire us. Have you had a mentor or a role model who influenced your career?
I'm really lucky. I've had too many to count. So I mentioned Jude before. So Jude was my first supervisor, and I have a work crush on her. Like as soon as I met her, I was like, I want to be exactly like Jude. So she mentored me all the way through, still mentors me to this day, even though she's retired. And then I've met lots of other amazing women across Australia and internationally. And I think I think a mentor is someone who believes in you and is your cheerleader and often can see things in you that you can't see in yourself yet. And so Jude was very strategic with me in terms of she wanted to know what my hopes and dreams were in terms of my career. And then she would help me to build towards that, to work towards that, sometimes encourage me or push me into things even when I didn't think that I was ready. And now I find myself doing the same thing for my staff and students. And so sometimes when I was younger, I used to think that she was just completely biased and didn't really have an objective opinion of me. I thought she just thought I was better than what I actually was. But now that I have staff and students, I absolutely understand why she was doing that, because yeah, when you have staff and students, you want to see the best in them and you want them to thrive. So I hope that I'm continuing her legacy.
Yeah, this is really wonderful to hear. And sometimes we just don't know, you know, like as you say, like we can't see, but there that push and that inspiration is so important to continue doing what we're doing. We start having questions from the audience. And we talked about some challenges. So the question is, what has been your greatest challenge as a woman in road safety?
I think myself. So talking about Jude and how amazing she was, I've been reflecting on what I might talk about today. I think when I was very young, or maybe even 5 years ago, I thought she was the perfect leader, the perfect researcher. And so I'm a very different thinker to Jude. And so I would often feel less than in terms of that I wasn't doing the things that way she would do it. She's a very innovative, big thinker. I'm not that. I'm more of a strategic implementer. And so I think for a long time in my career, as I said, I wasn't very kind to myself in terms of thinking that I should be something that that I wasn't. As I'm getting older, I am reflecting now that it takes all types of thinkers. We need diverse thinkers. We need, just like we need interdisciplinary research, we need different people who can do things. And so when she was coming up with these great ideas, I was thinking about, okay, well, how do we make that feasible? How do we make that happen? And so yeah, if I look back, I wish I was a little kinder to myself and maybe even said yes to things a little bit earlier. I think I was the person sort of standing in my way.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's quite a challenge to take on. So we have another question as well from the audience. So you've done a number of different studies and research in your career. But what research have you been involved in that has had the greatest impact on your career in road safety, and why?
Oh, probably we applied for an ARC linkage grant, and we were successful. So it's the AusCan Drive project. It's a longitudinal cohort study where we tracked 250 older drivers here in Melbourne for 8 years. And then we also partnered with CanDrive, so they collected data on 927 older drivers for a period of 5 years. So it's had impact in multiple ways. So the first is that back in the olden days, you didn't apply for a DECRA separately. You applied for a fellowship through the ARC as part of the linkage project. So I was lucky enough to be written into that. We were sort of over budget, and I kept saying to Jude, just get rid of the fellowship. We don't need the fellowship. We need budget for other things. And she was adamant that she was gonna write that in. And so I was lucky to get that. But the other thing too is that through that fellowship and that research, I've made wonderful connections across the world, particularly with my Canadian colleagues, and that's taken me far and wide and had me speak at different conferences. But because it was a naturalistic driving study, we started to develop naturalistic driving methodology techniques, and now we have a great suite of naturalistic driving studies or methodologies here at MUARC, which I now lead. So I think even though it was a long time ago, that project is still influencing my career and the opportunities that I'm afforded.
Thank you for sharing that. That sounds really, really interesting, challenging, and exciting at the same time. But you know, when we talk, I think that, you know, you mentioned some leadership of your supervisor as well as your completely different approach. But what do you think in terms of the character and those traits that helped you navigate through and to build that, you know, resilience to success and remain persistent in continuing you and pursuing your dreams?
I have no idea because I'm really sensitive and I cry on the regular. But I think I think I'm persistent, and I think that that's what academia is. There's absolutely, you know, you get more rejections than you have in terms of successes. And so it's about, I think working in a team too helps because you can consolidate or you can sort of talk to each other. And just because you get rejected doesn't mean it's not good science. Just because your paper's rejected doesn't mean it's not good science. It just means it's not the right home. So I think, yeah, working in a team environment has been really helpful for me. And then also having that perspective that it doesn't mean it's not good, it just isn't the right time.
Yeah. That's a great point. And I actually even reflect on my journey.
Yeah.
Like I remained persistent. It was number one. Like I remember I applied for some scholarship to pursue my degree in human factors. And
Yep.
look, I didn't get it from the first year. I was not successful, but I think I was too persistent and I really wanted, I had some dreams, you know, in my head. And well, I applied the next year
Yep.
and I was successful that round. So, and I think sometimes, you know, just accepting those, you know, sometimes failures and challenges and really pursue still your dreams are important because they do shape um, you know, they're kind of yourself, right? Your character, but also define like follow your dreams. How about you? What sort of role of failures you think, you know, challenges, how they played in your career?
It's massive. And I think we don't talk, we don't socialize the failures as much as we do the successes, especially in this day and age of social media and LinkedIn. We often see people getting grants, getting papers, but when you dig down, it's often someone saying, well, this is the second time I've applied for this grant, or, you know, and it's about how you think about it. So I think I told you this story that it took 2 years for my thesis to be examined. I had a particularly painful examiner who wanted me to resubmit twice, which we did. Looking back, we probably should have pushed back. And then when she asked for a third time, my university finally got involved and said, no, we'll send it to a third examiner who passed it straight away. But it did take 2 years. And so when I was at MUARC, there were people who submitted and graduated in that period. And so again, it was really easy to feel like a failure. But that ties back to that ARC linkage grant. If I had passed or, you know, graduated when I should have, I wouldn't have been eligible for that fellowship. So now I think about that setback, that I actually think that it was a blessing in disguise, and that maybe, you know, if we think about karma or destiny, maybe I was meant to be on that ARC linkage grant and have that fellowship. So I think sometimes we've got to just flip how we think about things, whether they're success or failures, and socialize that too and reach out to other people. The other thing now that I'm old, I get my brave on and I send things to people. I ask people to collaborate with me. I ask people to read things. And when people send me things, I'm more than happy to read and review. So I think we can lean on our village a little bit more. And sometimes when you've got fresh eyes looking at something, you can see that there's not a connection or not a linkage there. So I would say don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, that's a great point, and really also highlight to some point in the careers when some people experience imposter syndrome, and
Yes.
I think that's important. Just just, you know, to ask, because, well, the worst response you'll hear is no, but at least you tried, and, you know, you navigate through the completely different directions in the life. So be brave to ask, be brave to speak up and talk. And I think it comes to the point you mentioned that working in the team is another great asset and character, just a part to play. What sort of role in your career collaboration has played, and tell us a little bit a story about some successful collaboration that maybe led to some real change, well, whether to society, impact to users, or to your team.
Well, I'll talk about a recent one. So I'm about to give a webinar for Austroads because of this award that I won. They said that one of the things that I got for winning the award was having to do a webinar. Anyway, I'm going to present some new research that I've just done looking at seatbelt use during pregnancy. So this is kind of a cool story because I got the idea at a road safety conference. I saw Lyndall Bergea doing a presentation on a systematic review that she'd done, and she really talked about the fact that there was limited research in this area. And then, so then I was talking to some international colleagues who said, yeah, that would be a great idea. So without any funding and just on the side, we came up with a survey that we could conduct here in Australia. We did that. That's been published. That's now being replicated in the US by IHS. And what we're finding is that there's pretty similar findings in that pregnant occupants don't understand the injury impacts of not wearing their seatbelt correctly. Most of them are not getting any information about how to wear their seatbelts across their pregnancy journey. And so some pretty real world impacts is that we can come up with some education or some resources that might be able to be interwoven into prenatal care to make sure that pregnant occupants understand that they are at risk if they're involved in a crash, if they're not wearing their seatbelt correctly, and how to do that. So I'm really excited about that because not only is it an international collaboration, but it's also, it has, as you said before, real impact and might be able to prevent an injury or save a life.
Yeah, that's great. Looking forward to that webinar. We'll share with the network, that's for sure. So we have another question from the audience. If you were granted 3 road safety wishes based on your knowledge, research, and personal journey, what would they be?
Reduce speeds. Everyone's traveling in a 5-star rated vehicle.
Yeah.
And that everyone understood the real risks that they're taking when they're engaging in illegal behaviour.
Great.
I mean, it's pretty broad and pretty unrealistic, but I think we need all those 3 things to work together. We need people in the safest vehicles possible. We need speed limits set that are in line with human tolerances. And I think a lot of the dangerous or illegal behaviour that we see is that people underestimate the risks associated with that behaviour and think that they're better than the average driver or that their car's safer than the average vehicle. So they're the 3 wishes that I'd have.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. That hopefully they'll come through from Sjaan. But it really resonates, you know, like, and there are challenges, there are continuous challenges, and we've seen the recent report as well, and the ongoing progresses, and really. It would be great if it goes to those wishes that road safety experts wish, and there is a lot of hope that what we're doing will have impact and, of course, really save lives of many drivers. So,
and if I could have a 4th, I'd have roads in there too. So like every road in Australia is 5-star rated.
think that's a question and answer to the government, right? So please keep that up. Keep that up. Look, you mentioned as well, like a number of different roles that you do, but also you're a mum and the research academic, and of course there are so many different other engagements that you have nationally and internationally. Well, first, how do you keep up with all of that? And I think the question is really, we hear about work-life balance and how to maintain that, so how to achieve that. How did you navigate through at different stages of your career with different challenges in terms of that?
At the start, pretty badly. I was accepted into a women's mentoring program. I think I was level C. I had 2 small children, working part-time, and I was trying to balance it all. And so I got to this mentoring program and I wanted to learn from this head of school, and I thought to myself, I'm just going to replicate what she's doing. So whatever she's doing, like, I'll do that and then I'll be successful. And what I got to the end, I worked out that her family dynamics, her life stage dynamics, her career dynamics were very different to mine. And so I couldn't just take what she was doing and put that in my life and make it a success. And so what I worked out, and now what I tell my staff and students, is that you need to work out things that work for you. So just like clothes, try a lot of things on, discard the things that don't work and keep the things that do. And I heard something recently or yesterday. It was about not striving for work-life balance, because that's a myth. But what we should be thinking about is work-life integration. So some of us are very lucky that we have flexible working hours so that we can be part of our children or our parents or family or friends, and then do the work either side of those things. So that's what I try to do. There's a couple of things that I've really learnt. That is, I get up very early in the morning. For me, my mental health is best if I run every day. So I prioritize the things that are good for me and that can give me the energy and the strength to be good for everyone else. So I will get up early and do emails before I run, but I schedule send them. I don't want my staff or students to think that they have to respond to an email because I'm up at 4. It doesn't mean that they should be responding to things. And even though you might say underneath in your email signature, I work flexibly, I don't expect you to, I think sometimes for junior staff, they still think that there is that expectation. And I think the other thing is to remember that things change. So you might have it worked out when your kids are in primary school and it's all working perfectly. They're at the same school, you've got the same pick-up, drop-off. But then as life changes and they might move schools, or you've got 2 at 2 different schools, or then you've got parents who are aging who might need a bit of assistance, then you need to rework that schedule and work out what works for you. So be flexible and flexibly change that integration. But then also communicate. So, I talk to my director about what I need and what I'm doing, and I talk to my staff about that. And I think if you're open and honest and transparent about what your needs are and what you're working towards, then everyone's on the same page. In terms of how I do everything that I do, I think it's really easy when you're passionate about it. So it's really important to me to contribute both nationally and internationally. And I feel like, sometimes Australia gets forgotten or missed. So it's really important that I feel like that we're represented. So I don't know, I just make it a priority to be able to do that. And then hopefully there's other benefits that flow from that. So if I'm part of a scientific program committee or part of a board, hopefully I can recommend other people for opportunities as well.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, and I like that point about the integration, because what works one year not necessarily will work next year, and what works for one person or one profession, like for example, some academic life may be a little bit more flexible sometimes compared to the 9-to-5 workers, but communication is a key, and really prioritizing your own your own self in terms of the health, mental health, and to ensure that it's bearable. So I have 2 kids, and for when I joined my current role at the university, so I basically haven't slept for 4 years because I have 2 kids. But that it is a personal thing, but it still affects you, and you of course want to do well. But communication is a key, and that understanding, is really important. It's about that integration. What we hear from you. Thank you for lots of questions that we are receiving from the audience today. So, Sjaan, the next question is, do you think that we need to increase education in schools for learner drivers? And if so, how do we get that to happen? What's your view on that?
I'm not across the evidence, so I wouldn't want to give a response without seeing the science. I know that there's a bit of research that's going on looking at some of the graduated licensing programs, but particularly for learner drivers. Different states and territories across Australia have different requirements in terms of numbers of supervised hours. We definitely need to do something. I'm not across everything, but I know that we do know that period first after going from supervised to unsupervised is one of the riskiest periods. So we definitely need to do something. But as an academic, I can't speak on something that I'm not across in terms of all of the science.
No, that's totally clear, and yeah, we do need data, right? So we need we need to have also that latest research on things. And same, I'm with you that there had been a lot of research on the role of any changes or the role of education and training for young drivers. So whether it's learner, provisional drivers, well, we still have that continuous part as well as on the graduated licensing scheme. But definitely, I think what we see in statistics regarding young drivers and their continuous involvement in accidents, motor vehicles accidents, really gives us that need to action, from different perspectives. So because one thing is in education, but other thing, there are so many behavioral, there are so many other aspects that contribute to that. So it is a complex systems, but definitely potentially some new changes and revisions needs to be made. And so my intake is really the simplest one, is to make it really effective from school ages, just really to reinforce that message about road safety and the key learning education. So yeah, we do have a number of specialists in this area, and I think the latest research will show us the trends. So the next question is, you mentioned that you had some great mentors throughout your career, and now you want to pay it forward.
Yes.
What activities have you been involved in to achieve this? And what can we do to lift our fellow women?
So I think we can do it in 2 ways. We can do it in formal ways and in informal ways. So I've been involved in about 10 mentoring programs where I've been the mentor that's been inside and outside road safety. I love doing that. It's fantastic. So I do that for ACRS, but for a couple of other organizations as well. I don't let my mentors or my mentees leave. So once they're with me, they're stuck for life. I don't know that they realize that would happen. But I think too, people will often send me things like their DECRAs or their applications and ask me to review that. And I'm very happy to do it. But I think it's about thinking about other people and recommending other people. So sort of understanding or knowing what people are working on. And then when there's an opportunity or someone says, oh, do you know anyone who does this? It's about thinking about that. And I certainly try to always think about a young emerging woman.
Yeah, this is great. And tell us a little bit about that new initiative that you just started recently for women in road safety.
Well, I don't know that it's an initiative, but I as I said before, I was really humbled to win the Australasian College of Road Safety Women in Road Safety Award. And so I didn't want it to be symbolic, and I wanted to do something to celebrate that. So I started in 2024, and I just thought, I'm going to start a Twitter account, and I'm just going to try and highlight women when and if I can. And so that was fine. But then I don't know why, I just decided that in 2025, I'm going to highlight at least one woman per day. So I've been doing that since January 1st. And it's been so interesting. I mean, I think I find it really, really interesting. So I've asked for calls for people to send them through to me. And so then I go to their website or their LinkedIn page and I write a tweet about them. And then someone alerted me to the fact that Twitter or X is dead. So I should go to Blue Sky. So now I'm doing the same post on both X and Blue Sky. And then at the end of each month, I just highlight the people who I've highlighted on LinkedIn. I mean, it's getting a little bit complicated, but not everyone's on X, not everyone's on Blue Sky. Most people are on Twitter. And to be honest, I've been really touched by when people realize that I've highlighted them in a tweet, they've been really overwhelmed and touched, which means that I think that I need to do more of it, because we've got such amazing people in Australia and throughout the world. And I think it's a stereotype, but men are really good at promoting themselves. And I think we could get better at that. But I think most of us find that it's much easier to promote someone else. So it's been really fun. I'm really thoroughly enjoying it. And if you have a recommendation for me, please email me and I will share or highlight or showcase that woman in 2025. So I've got a growing list. So if you don't see that person in the next couple of days, it's because they're on the list and I'm just working my way through the list. So I don't just want academics. I would like practitioners. I would like people working in government, advocates, because it's a bit of a theme. It takes everyone. It takes a village to improve road safety. And I really want to highlight those people as well.
So that's fantastic and great for doing that. I think that's important to support women in road safety. So everyone in the audience, you've heard that. So please email to Sjaan and recommend those inspiring women in road safety who are doing a wonderful job. Right. So the next question I think is about, so you mentioned that you inspire young girls and women in road safety. So
I don't know that I inspire them, but I try to.
So what can we do to actually inspire them, and what we can do to support our next generations in girls and women in road safety to drive the change?
I mean, I think this could be broader. Like I have a suggestion. It's probably broader than road safety. I've been to a few seminars at Monash University talking about gender disparity in terms of who's getting promoted, careers, and the traditional academic scale you see. And again, might be a generalization, but generally men have this linear straight line from level A to level E in a short period of time. Whereas when you put the same graph up for women who may have interruptions for parenting responsibilities or caregiving responsibilities, their graph is very, very different. And one of the reasons also, in addition to having career disruptions, is that the data is saying that women do not go for promotion or jobs unless they meet 100% of the selection criteria or they're 1000% overqualified for the job. Again, probably stereotypes. I know I certainly have not gone for things because I didn't meet one thing on there and wasn't sure what I would write in the selection criteria. So one of the things that I'm trying to really encourage is that try and say yes to adventure, try and go for things, and know that you can grow into that role. You don't need to always like already be doing that role. And that's where I think mentors can help you, encourage you to get your brave on and to do those sorts of things. So if you're thinking about something and you're on the fence and you're not 100% sure if you're underqualified, reach out to some senior women and they will probably say, no, go for it. The worst you're going to get, like you said before, the worst you're going to get is a no, but you'll have put that information together. It will be somewhere, and then you can use that information for another application. Nothing that you ever,
Yes.
in terms of you put it together and you use it for something else, and you improve on it and you expand on it. And so maybe again that relies on the younger people, like asking for help, but maybe we can be making sure with people that we are supervising, whether that be staff or students, when we see opportunities and they say, oh no, I'm not going to go for it, we need to really sit down and say, listen, you don't need to have everything figured out. You can grow into that role.
It's a great and excellent point. And yeah, you have to have that, build that courage and confidence in your own self, and yeah, have great mentors. I think yeah, ACRS provide a great platform as well for mentors in road safety and mentees. So that's there is one way how we can engage, but similar in every workplace. So we have those people who support and support women. Next question is about what are the key behavioral science issues that you see in road safety these days?
I think that in my nearly 25 years here, we haven't made a dent in terms of people understanding the risks. I think inherently humans are comfortable with a certain level of risk. But as I said before, I think that most people, in all the survey work that I've done, most people think that they're better than the average driver, and most people think that crashes are rare, and that and even I'm seeing now that if you change modes, if you go into ride share or automated vehicles or things like that, people think that the laws of physics don't exist anymore. So you wear your seatbelt while you're traveling in you wouldn't put your child on your lap while you're driving here in Victoria, but if you go to Bali, then maybe you do that. So I don't think that we've made a dent there, which is why in my dreams, I think we need to lower speeds and we need really safe vehicles so that when humans make errors, that the injury risks are low.
Yeah. And is there any current project that you're working on, or you would like to share some insights on your future work that is coming?
Yeah, so one really cool survey that I've just done that I'm a bit excited about is looking at Uber Teen. So this was sort of quietly introduced into some states and territories in Australia last year. So it's an Uber service, but it's pitched at teenagers. So teenagers traveling independently within a rideshare service. And so I just wanted to sort of understand what parents' appetites were for in terms of using this service, but also whether parents were allowing their teenagers to ride unaccompanied in a rideshare service already. And so they are. So some of them are already using it. Some of them are using just the normal Uber to allow their teenagers to travel for whole different reasons in terms of, attending medical appointments or going to friends' houses. And so the people who are more likely to use it are parents who use rideshare themselves. Again, I guess it's this desensitization of risk. So if they're using rideshare quite often, then they don't see that there's a problem or a risk in terms of their children using it. Some people think that, that is safer than public transport. And so that's really interesting to me, like in terms of these emerging technologies or emerging transport modes. What are the risks and what's the appetite for risk in terms of parents? And then when you're talking about teenagers, then you sort of have to take their considerations in mind as well, especially, sort of the 16, 17-year-olds. So if we could extend that survey, that stuff, I'd like to talk to teenagers themselves in terms of how comfortable do they feel traveling in a rideshare vehicle by themselves? What are their feelings about rideshare drivers, or, some of what kind of features would you like in a rideshare service to provide protection? So that's kind of cool because it's sort of like new emerging stuff that no one's done before. So, well, that paper's submitted, so we've just done the revision, so hopefully that will be published soon.
Yeah, looking forward to reading the paper and those insights. Thanks for sharing.
But you know what I did with that? And this is where it's about those networks again. So I was really struggling to try to find parents to fill out this survey. And so I just got my brave on and I emailed lots of people from ACRS and I asked them to share the link in their networks. I mean, and so many people were really helpful and really helped me to recruit the participants that I needed for that survey. So again, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, that's one of the key takeaways from today. Yeah, consistently. No, that's great. And
but I have to say, like, I didn't ask for help early on, and so it's something that I've had to learn. I didn't know how to do this. I'm learning with practice, but I want people maybe to not repeat the same mistakes that I did. So, yeah, if you can do that, that would be good.
That's a wonderful takeaway. And so just before we wrap up, so what would be your three key takeaways for the audience today? What message would you like to leave us with?
Comparison is the thief of joy. So you are uniquely you, and you are wonderful as you are. So don't compare yourself to other people. Ask for help. There's a whole village here in Australia that wants to guide you. And be brave, say yes to adventures and grow into the role. They would be like sort of the three things that I would say.
Yeah, these are wonderful takeaways, and definitely Women in Road Safety Network is one of those initiatives as well, where we support women and that grow together as well. And please reach out at any time. Well, thank you so much, Sjaan, for this wonderful discussion today. It was great. It was a bit of an informal chat, but in conversation with our inspiring woman today. And to everyone else in the audience, we thank you all for joining today. Thank you again all for your expertise, for your courage, for your passion, and your relentless pursuit of safer roads for all. And congratulations in the upcoming International Women's Day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.